Good day. Thank you for joining this video. This video is about the settings side of the application. In order to log onto the application, you go to my website, www.strategicaccounting.co.za. You click on the log on button, then you get to this screen where you have to put your username and password in. The previous two videos talked about running a 30-day free trial where you have to register. The second video talked about the branding and templates and the organizational items such as email settings and also your tax type settings as well. Today's video is talking about the settings side still because we've not dealt with all the items as far as the settings side is concerned. So today we're going to talk about the organizational side settings of the application. So what you can do for me at the top, you click on settings, and then we're going to deal with this element, the organizational settings. So there are 5 items here. It's the general settings, financial settings, email settings, chart of accounts, and transaction numbering. All right, so I'm going to spend a few minutes on each element over here. When we registered the entity, there was certain information that you had to enter. If you need to go and change any of that information, you basically go into settings at the top over there and back into general settings. So this is general settings over here. So this is where you can change any information. So for example, if your registration number is incorrect, this is where you need to change your registration number. If your email address is incorrect and you want to add more email addresses, this is where you're going to go and change that. Now I'm going to enter the website details because that was not on the original setup. For some other reason, we forgot to enter that, so this is where you're going to enter that information. What's most important that you need to understand, when you're going to make a subsequent change to the general settings after setting up the original entity, you have to go back into branding and templates, click on edit, and go make the changes over here because the changes won't populate automatically from the settings side where you've now subsequently changed the information. So that is very important to understand. So every template that you have, that you've created, please don't forget to click save, click on save. Every template that you've created, when you make a subsequent change under the settings side, general settings, it does not filter through to your branding and templates, where we set up the logos, etc., etc., etc. So please make sure that when you change anything there, please change everything within the branding and templates. Okay, the next item here is financial settings. So under financial settings, if your VAT number, for some other reason we typed it incorrectly when you've been setting that up, this is where you can go change that. If your year-end changes, this is where you change that. If your conversion date is incorrect, this is where you change that. This is where you change the lock date. Remember, we talked about lock date before. This is your import rule. If your sales terms has changed, this is where you change your sales terms. And if you want to change your default bank, this is where you change that. Please do not forget to click on save once you've made changes on the financial settings side. All right, so the video is going to talk about email settings, chart of accounts, and transaction numbering. Okay, so what's important here to understand that the system has got 2 options when you email. All right, the first option is you email from your own email address. So if you have 5 or more, or 2 or more, or 3 or more, or 4 or more people using the application and they've got their own username and passwords. Remember, we talked about managing usernames and passwords. In this case, I'm the only user on the application, but it doesn't matter. So now, if you want all the emails that goes out of the application to have one name, this is where you're going to go set that up. So click on email settings, right? Now you've got 2 options over here. The first option is logged in as user. That means that emails will be sent from your name convention. So any email that will be sent by myself, and that will represent the email that goes out of the application. If you want all your emails to come from one email address, so for example, you want this setup to come from Indalo Shopfitters, right, and a reply to email address. Normally we use the info email address because it makes it easier to do that. Okay, so you enter the email address, you click on save. there will be an activation email that will go to this email address. All right, so once the email has been activated, then anybody that logs onto Indalo Shopfitters Pty Ltd, all emails or communication, quotes, invoices, purchase orders will come from this email address and not from Francis' email address. All right, so that's quite a nice feature that the application has got. Okay, let's repeat. So under the general settings, this is where you're going to change information. Financial settings, that's where you're going to change information. Before you change any financial settings, speak to us where we are the service providers, especially on the accounting side, because that is very important. Because if you change any information there, it changes everything and it becomes a big problem. So please don't change any information there. On the email settings, this is where you send emails. Okay, so when you're logged in as a user, you can log on and emails will be sent as the user. Custom emails, that means it's organizational emails. So anything that comes from your organization will come from a specific email address. So this is quite a nice feature because you can set anybody that uses the application, quotes, invoices, purchase orders, etc., statements that comes from this email address. Then you know that any correspondences from your client will go back. If somebody responds on that email, it will go back to this email address. So that controls the traffic as far as communication with your client is concerned. The next item here is chart of accounts. Okay, what's very important to understand as far as the chart of accounts is concerned? The chart of accounts is the backbone of the reporting side of the application. So it drives the P&L, which is your profit and loss, and also known as your comprehensive income statement. And it also drives the balance sheet as well, and also drives the trial balance. These items over here comes from your chart of accounts. So my recommendation is please do not change the chart of accounts. Because if you're going to change the chart of accounts and the numbering of the chart of accounts, it drives a lot of items as far as your processing elements are concerned. So when you convert from a previous accounting system, rather do a balance sheet approach where you match the account numbers that's on the application versus your account numbers that is on your current application, and then rather do the journals into these new account numbers. That makes it easier for us to control, that makes it easier for us to report, and it makes it easier for us to manage the entire conversion process. Because if you change any of these account numbers, it becomes a challenge, because then you don't know what age categories, which items, which chart of accounts, which general accounts these things are going to. So very important, please do not change any of these accounts. If you want to change the naming convention of the name of the account, so you can go change this to computer equipment. Okay, you can go change that. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. And then the account type, where it belongs, so you go put that in. The default VAT rate, remember we changed the VAT rate to 15% because in South Africa the VAT rate changed, and the account is enabled. So if you want to disable the account, this is where you put that in. And then anything that you would like the processing elements to happen, that processes through the purchases module. So you can process that through the purchases module. If you want this account to display on the dashboard, so you click on this button over here where it says displays on dashboard. So where's the dashboard? The dashboard is in front. All right, so there are key items here that we flagged as far as the accounts are concerned. This will appear on the dashboard. So if you're going to go into settings side and you would like the fixed assets computer equipment to be displayed on a dashboard, you click on this button over here, you click on save, you go to the dashboard, and there's the account that will appear as an account watch list. All right, so if you want to go back and remove that from the dashboard, you basically go back into the chart of accounts, go back into the account, and you click display on dashboard, remove that, you click on save. When you go back onto the dashboard, it's not there anymore. All right, so what's nice about that feature is that if you want to monitor your sales, cost of sales, and specific items, you can put that onto the dashboard over there. So that's where you're going to put that account numbers on the dashboard. Okay, transaction numbering. So what's so important about the transaction numbering is because when you convert from a previous accounting system, there's a prefix and there's a number that will appear. All right, so what is a prefix? The prefix is for a sales invoice. Anything that will appear in terms of the sales invoice numbering range, there will be a prefix. It's an INV and it's a number. If you would like to change this to IN, all right, you change that to IN. If you want to change it to INV or INVI or INV invoice, whatever you want to call it, all right, this is where you change the prefix there. Okay, next number. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have to understand the following. When you're converting from a previous accounting system, there will be a video talking about conversion process, which is the import data side of the application. So when we're converting from a previous accounting system and your previous number on your invoice is 101, you click on your sales invoice, so that means your next number on your invoice will be 102. All right, you click on save, so the system will now create invoices from 102 onwards. If you have quotations and your last quotation is 99 and you want your next quotation to be 100, you click on quotation 100. Okay, so this is important when you're converting from a previous accounting system. If you are using the system from scratch and it's the first time you're using application and you never had proper sequencing numbers, you never had proper quotation numbering ranges, etc., I would suggest that you start from number 1, because then we can look at and transact from a proper numbering range point of view. So from a conversion point of view, that's where we need to change the sequence numbers as far as the application is concerned. We're going to talk about in another video on how to import data from the previous accounting system through the CSV processes. What's important is when you have transaction numberings and when you're converting from a previous accounting system through a balance sheet approach where we have journals that we will put on board. Therefore, it's critical to understand what is your previous and your next invoice numbers, because if you have a sequence number and you want to maintain that sequence number, what drives that sequence number is also your supplier and your customer statement. So your customer statement will have invoice numbers on there if it's outstanding. Your supplier statements will have invoice numbers on there that's outstanding. So you want to make sure that the sequence numbers follow, because if you have gaps in the sequence, that means there's gaps in the accounting process and you would like to avoid that. All right, just to summarize again, we talked about the organization settings, we talked about general settings, we talked about financial settings, we talked about email settings, we talked about chart of account settings, and we talked about transaction numbering. If you want to read more about these elements as far as this video is concerned, you basically go into the help menu button, which is at the top over there, and you go back down the list, you go to settings over here, and it talks about email settings. Now you can read about what your email settings is about, and it also talks about your chart of accounts. So if you click on chart of accounts over here, it talks about what your chart of accounts is and how your chart of accounts is set up. If you want to add new account items, you can do so, but please follow the numbering ranges. That's quite important. If you want to edit and enable and disable chart of accounts, you can do that as well. And then adding opening balances to your records. There's how to convert from another accounting system. That is a video on its own, which is quite important that we have to explain how the process works. But if you are converting from a previous accounting system, please contact us to assist from the accounting side, the tax side, the VAT side, the payroll side, etc. Because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of things that needs to be considered. It's not just an opening balance sheet approach that you must use. It is a very complex process, so rather contact us in order to assist you in that area. All right, you will notice that at the top here that the free trial, there's days remaining in terms of the free trial. We have a video talking about subscribing now, but today's video is talking about organizational settings. And in terms of organizational settings, this is where we actually looked at it. If you want to contact us, you go to our website, you click on contacts at the top there. In order to reach us, you can give us a phone call on 011-050-1616. Our fax is 086-691-6065. Our email address is info@strategicaccounting.co.za. Website www.strategicaccounting.co.za. My mobile number is 083-561-8040. My Skype address is strategic01, and you also can do a contact form as well. So this is our video. There will be another series of videos that talks about various other things. So please stay tuned in respect to these other videos. Thank you.